Thank you so much, and welcome to the 2022 RTD Board Candidates Forum, brought to you by TransXchange, the public transit platform. My name is Marty Coniglio, and I'm pleased to once again serve as moderator for today's conversation. I say that because, as you likely know, the forum is not intended to be confrontational. We want this to be informational to those folks out there, so we hope you keep the confrontation to a minimum today. Also, we held a forum like this in 2020. If anybody remembers 2020, that was the year that lasted a decade. We have a precious resource with RTD. You can literally hop on a bus or train in your neighborhood and continue a journey that takes you around the globe. RTD has one of the largest operating regions of any public transit system in the country, serving very diverse areas of the Denver metro region, from sprawling suburbs to dense downtowns. Its annual budget comes from some of our partners. We'd like to thank our sponsors, the Downtown Denver Partnership, its entrepreneurial hub, our venue for today, of course, the Commons on Champa, Bicycle Colorado, Colorado Cross Disability Coalition, Boulder Chamber of Commerce, Denver Streets Partnership, Colorado AFL-CIO, and Greater Denver Transit. And mostly, we'd like to thank our candidates. Those with us here today, those joining remotely, and those who kindly replied to our invitation with a note of gratitude citing scheduling conflicts. You're the embodiment of our democracy in action, and we're grateful for your willingness to serve. So let's get started. To begin, each of you have up to 3 minutes for a personal statement introducing yourself to our audience. I should note that, as you know, this forum is being recorded and will be made available online for viewing soon after we wrap up. Now, this is no particular order here. It really is the list, the order in which I wrote folks down as we came in. Let's begin with Michael Guzman, running in District C. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Yo me llamo Miguel Guzmán. Soy nacido de Denver y esta es mi ciudad favorita natal. Vengo de familia puertorriqueña y mexicano y vivo ahora en Sunnyside, Denver, el North Side. Para los que sepan, me invitaron a hacer una carrera política. Nunca lo he hecho. Es la primera vez que estoy entrando en este tipo de carrera política. Es decir, my name is Michael Guzman. I was born in Denver. I live currently in Sunnyside. My family has Puerto Rican and Mexican roots, but this is my home city. I was born at St. Joe's, and it's my first foray into any type of politics. So I'm excited to be here. So I was invited to join. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we would like to hear from Joyanne Ruska, running in District B. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Marty. My name is Joyanne Rusha, and I'm running for RTD in District B. I have to interrupt myself and ask, can you guys hear me okay? I know there was a problem earlier.
Loud and clear. It sounds great.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. So I'm running for RTD in District B, and that covers North and South Park Hill, a sliver of East Colfax, all of the Central Park neighborhoods. There are 13 of them. Montbello, Green Valley Ranch, DIA, and also Aurora north of Colfax until it hits Whittier. So that is District B. I have a son named Judah, and we became an RTD family when my son had to transfer schools due to bullying. So instead of attending the school that was a few minutes away, Judah had to hop on 1 to 2 buses, an RTD bus, to get to class. And that's when I really started paying attention to RTD, finances, routes, the conditions of operators, etc. And we really lived and died by that RTD calendar. And I today my son is now a senior at Northfield High School. So we've had several years of being that RTD reliant family, and actually found RTD so convenient that even though my son is going to turn 18 in a few weeks, we have decided to stay a one-car family. Judah still rides RTD all the time. I ride RTD as well. We find it, fairly convenient and easy. And when there isn't a bus route that meets our needs, we can find alternative transportation. So we also feel very lucky. I'm really looking forward to, as long as I remember to vote for myself, I think I did, joining the board, working together, collaborating. We have a lot of challenges, but I think this board is just new board makeup is going to be really unique and diverse. I know we're all very passionate about equitable transportation. And again, thank you for having me here. And I really look forward to our discussion today.
Thank you so much. And next will be Ian Hardwick, running in District L. Good afternoon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ian Harwick. I was born in Ohio, but we moved here when I was 6 months old. And so I grew up in Arvada, which is now where I'm looking to represent, in a little bit of Southwest Adams County. I am running because I want to be a good voice for Arvada, and recognize there are so many issues that are facing us as a community. Right now, my day job's in climate action, and so I'm looking through my run on RTD through a climate lens, and how do we utilize RTD and transportation throughout the metro area to really fight climate action and interface with our other entities, whether that's, in my case, it's the city of Denver, but obviously that's where I work. But then I live in Arvada. And so how do we, as all these communities, collaborate together, work together, and take this issue head on, and at the same time get people riding bikes, riding transportation, walking, and just, really making a more sustainable community for everyone. And that's really why I'm fighting. I'm running by myself as a writing candidate also, but I do want to make sure I'm representing everybody well and equitably. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll hear from Lynn Geisinger, who is running in District O. Good afternoon.
Thanks very much, Marty. My name is Lynn Geisinger, as he said, and I'm running in District O. District O is Boulder, Louisville, part of Longmont, Superior, up all the way to the Continental Divide in western Boulder County. I've been in Boulder almost the whole time, worked in Denver part of it and a little bit down there, but for about the last 40 years. I practiced law here. I taught environmental and land use planning classes at the law school. And then later, along with my late husband, I owned a business that has done marketing and advertising in the bicycle and outdoor industries, and with cities to promote their biking and walking in transit. I currently also sit on the Regional Air Quality Council, and have served on any number of boards, including the City of Boulder's Transportation Advisory Board and Commuting Solutions. I've been in leadership on the executive committee at RTD for 3 of my 4 years on here. And I think, my focus in the RTD board is a lot around how we move RTD forward with our partners at the state and with the local governments. I try to use my relationships and other relationships to help to develop those relationships. I think that our future, and we can talk about this more, is in working closely with the other entities around us. I'm very excited to see the new faces today. I think we have a lot of talent coming on the board, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much, Lynn. And joining us here in person, running in District K, Harvest Thomas. Good afternoon to you.
Thank you. My name is Harvest Thomas. It's Harbest, and a lot of people mistaken call me Forrest. So I knew that was probably, you had to look at it twice, so I was prepared. But My name is Harvest Thomas. I live in Commerce City. I'm running for District K. District K consists of all of Commerce City, all of Brighton, Loch Bowie, and 80% of Thornton. I have an undergrad degree in finance, and I have an MBA in finance and accounting from Regis University. I believe a lot about the RTD. And also too, I currently work for the Colorado Department of Revenue as a tax compliant agent, which I have the whole city of Boulder, which means I drive to Boulder 5 days a week, and I understand why they want to train, because I could jump on that train and do my job that way. 10 months ago, probably a little longer, ABC ran a news clip on RTD about the east side of Broadway of the new 36 shelters they got. And living in Commerce City, I was kind of concerned because our shelters is bus stops, especially on Vasquez and 60th Avenue. Individuals sit on bricks, individuals sit on buggies, and those shelters is horrible. And I did reach out to my District K RTD director, and I didn't get a call back. And I feel that if you are a constituent to anybody holding elected office, they at least should call you back, email you back, or tell you something. When I didn't get that call back or nothing, I felt I was disrespected for the residents of Commerce City, not just myself, because we all deserve equality, equity, and everything. And just to blow me off hurt my feelings. And I did sit on Adams 14 School Board from 2015 to 2014. So I know what it is to be on the board. I also know what it is to do something positive for the community, because we was the first board to bring in a new school district, a new elementary school in 60+ years. So working with the individuals that's running and the individuals that's there, I will work hard, and I understand that everything won't pass, but I will give my 100% plus more. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvest. I think at this point, we are going to move on to questions, and we're a little bit flexible on how we do these questions. I'll pose a question to the group, and I would leave it to you if you'd like to have it raise your hand, jump in, or would you rather have me go from one person to the next? Which would you prefer?
I prefer go to one person.
All right, we'll go from one person to the next. And for the sake of simplicity, we're going to go in the same order in which you introduce themselves. And of course, we're going to want to keep your answers very concise so that everyone gets a chance to speak. Here is the first question. Public transit isn't exactly a topic likely to incite barroom brawls or even dinner table debates. It's pretty dry subject matter, yet it involves so many vital topics of the day: climate change, density versus sprawl, equity, the scourge of fentanyl use, mental health, the unhoused, work from home versus commuting, etc. Obviously, each of those topics impacts the system's ridership numbers, as well as the numbers of people willing to take frontline jobs with RTD. Do you see this as simply a marketing issue, or are we dealing with a deeper cultural shift? That is, folks wanting to use RTD and folks wanting to take frontline positions with RTD. Mike.
I would disagree that it's a dry topic, only because walking around doing all of the campaigning and talking to people about RTD, as soon as you say those 3 letters, they have something to say. And it is everything that you said and more. So my answer to that would be, it's not simply a marketing issue. There's more to it than that. It affects the lives of people that need the bus and the transportation. How do you raise awareness? How do you make the schedules work? The operations side is a whole different matter than what the board is there for. So we have to work together in coordination with them. I think outreach from the board of directors to their constituents is going to be a major issue. That communication piece that Harvest is talking about, but also listening to the needs of the people that we serve and trying to make those changes and implement those conversations, and they're tough conversations. So we get together, we have to figure it out together. And you're right, we're not going to get everything we want, but we do have to be able to have those tough rumbles and conversations as a board to make a difference.
All right, Joanne, would you like to weigh in? And again, if anyone, given the length of time between your answer and the question, I am happy to repeat the question if you need me to do so.
Thank you. So first I do want to note that I apologize for being off camera. I have my picture up because I was in a little bit of a fender bender. And so I didn't think anyone would appreciate me in my spectacles and bathrobe, laying in my sick bed. But so I do want to say I apologize. I feel like I'm a little rude being off camera. I do think I remember the bulk of your question, Marty. And I do agree with Michael that it might not be either or. And I do think that RTD is really important, particularly in my region. Like, for example, when the A line came, Montbello lost more than half of its bus service. And that was really to a detriment to those residents. On marketing, I would love to see our fares reduced and become less complicated. We're having that conversation right now, and I'm really excited about where those community conversations are going and some of the options that have been presented to the community. RTD isn't a particularly complicated system, but when I have friends who come in from out of town, they sometimes, like, a lot of them feel that they don't know how to use this transit system, even if they come from transit friendly places. So I think that RTD could do a little bit better in simplifying the process, and again, that's partially fares, and there may be some best practices that we can adopt. As far as our operators are the heart. They literally get us from A to B. I'm very proud to be endorsed by both the USW, the Steelworkers, and ATU 1001. I am a former union member, two different unions actually, card carrying union member. And I think that RTD has made some incredible strides in its relationship with its unionized workforce, and should continue to do so. Driving a bus or operating a train is not an easy job. And so we need to do everything we can to support our operators. And that is from pay to the dignity of retirement, to also a safety as well. I know you touched on a lot of other things in your question, Marty, and I'm probably at time. So I'll hand it to the next person. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ian, your response next. Again, the topics we're talking about are, is this a marketing issue for people using the system and or people wanting to take frontline positions within RTD, or is there a deeper cultural shift that needs to take place?
I'm going to go with the latter here, and I'm just going to build off what Michael and Joanne said, because I completely agree with both of their statements. For me, I look at some of the other programs that have popped up in the last 6 months to a year here in the Denver metro area, two of which, and I happen to be tied to both of them in my day job, but one of them being the e-bike incentive that our office is doing. And I look at, bike ridership was pretty stagnant in Denver for a long time. And then we put out this e-bike rebate, and all of a sudden you have 4,000 new e-bikes on the road, and it's fundamentally changed the way that people are commuting in and out of the city. And then there's also the program of the Globeville microtransit shuttle, and they've had record numbers of people utilizing their services. So for me, I think that when we're looking at RTD, we need to be thinking about it beyond buses and trains, and how can service be modified, or what new services can we bring in the future that would continue to not take away from the things that we already are going to be doing, but how can we add into that? And what are things that we can be doing at our bus stops and at our light rail and our commuter rail stops to make them more inviting for people to either to drive there if need be, but also how can we get them to safely walk there? How can we get them safely to ride their bikes there? And then what can we do on that site to make that more accommodating beyond that? And whether that's future density or bringing new businesses there, but activating those spaces to encourage people to come there and then utilize that for longer than it's just to walk from your vehicle, whatever that is, to the light rail or to the bus.
Very good. Lynn, what is your take on this question? These questions, really.
Okay, and if I understand it correctly, Marty, it's for people who where we've lost ridership and wanting to come back to use RTD, and for our workforce issue. Are these marketing issues or are these longer term issues?
I think yes, you have grasped it perfectly. Is it simply a perception issue, or is there something deeper that needs to be addressed?
Well, I think it's both. I agree with some of what's been said. I'll get my cat down here. And I think that I'll talk about workforce initially, because workforce to me is the biggest problem we face. It's keeping us from bringing back the service that we plan to bring back in the system optimization plan. It's a 5-year plan, but it's been hard to start bringing back service because of the lack of drivers. And it also is resulting in some cancellations, which makes it harder for people to rely on the bus. The good news is, we passed a collective bargaining agreement that the union was very pleased with, and raised salaries about 25% over the first maybe 2 years. And it seems to be that we're getting some good response recently. So hopefully we'll carry on with that. But, workforce has been an issue for a long time. So that's one we'll have to keep working on. In terms of bringing riders back, like a big piece of that is getting the service. So getting our operators and other workforce people power, as we could say, back. I also am very excited about the fair and equity study that Joyanne mentioned. I think that we're looking at ways to simplify the fares and hopefully bring them down, that hopefully will bring people back as well. So there's some good things happening there. As everybody sees in the paper, we continue to have challenges, and we'll be dealing with those. And I assume we'll have some more questions where I could talk more about some of that. Thanks.
We will, and I'm going to have a follow-up question. And we're going to go, Harvest, right after you give your answer to this question, I'm going to have a follow-up question based on Lynn's answer, and we'll go in reverse order. So I'm going to have you answering 2 in a row. If that's all right. Harvest, what's your response here? Do we have a cultural problem or a marketing problem or both to retain ridership and retain frontline workers?
I believe it's a double sword. I believe it's both. And the reason I say it's both is I used to work at 1475 Sherman Street downtown, right across from the Capitol. They closed our whole building. They sent everybody home. And we used to catch the buses, the trains to work for the Department of Revenue. So if you take 800 to 1,200 people out of one building and send them home, that right there is costing money, layoffs, and jobs right there. So that's just the Colorado Department of Revenue. So if you imagine just in that 1 mile radius of all the people, because of COVID, who sent their employees home, how you gonna get them people back to work? I'm driving a state car to Boulder now. I'm not driving riding the bus or the train to work anymore. So if it affect me, it affect just a 1 mile radius a lot of people. So then we have to go to the workers, the frontline workers. Now, my opinion is the baby boomers are starting to retire. I'm the last year of the baby boomers. Those baby boomers are thinking of what? I'm not going because of COVID. I don't want to go back to work. I don't want to have to risk my life on a bus. So you have to find out what can you do to solve that issue. And basically, the only thing you can do is, having been a school board member, I feel that you should tap into the CTE programs, the career and technical education programs. Wait, you got all these different, districts. Adams in 14 in K, I got Adams 14, I got 27J, I have Sheridan school district. We have so many school districts that offer these programs. I strongly feel that RTD can have these individuals in school, 18, 17, 16-year-olds, doing career training with them. And by the time these kids graduate to these programs, they can go ahead and be working for the RTD. So now you work. College ain't for everybody. So we got to remember, college is not for everybody.
You have both Lynn and Harvest have dovetailed into a question that I'm coming up with right now. It is not uncommon. And for your answer, by the way, please try to keep it to 30 seconds, which may be unfair due to the complexity of the question, but let's try to do this. Harvest, you mentioned the workforce. Lynn mentioned the union. It is not uncommon for people to join on with RTD, have RTD pay for their CDL, their commercial driving license, and then leave RTD immediately for other employment. How do you keep that drain from occurring?
That's easy. You sign contracts. You sign 3-year contracts. If I pay for your CDL and you just want to up and leave, you have to reimburse me the money that I put forward for your education within a 3-year signing bonus contract.
All right, Lynn?
I want to make sure I'm not muted, right? No.
Yep,
Um,
you're good.
Yeah, one good thing that our CEO, Deborah Johnson, did when she first came on was move away from mandating. So people aren't required to work 6 days a week, because so much of that was falling to the new drivers. And I think that will help keep people. That was a problem for many people. That could continue to be a problem, but I think that some of the pension and retirement plan options that we're offering at this point, and some of the incentive pay may help keep people here. Thanks.
Ian, how do you keep people after you've paid to train them?
Well, I like both of the statements that have come before me, but I think it's also, I've never worked for RTD, so I can't speak about the work environment, but having worked for the city for the past 3 years, I know what it's like to work for an agency that really appreciates the work that you do. And so for me, I think it's building a great work culture and making sure that these employees that have oftentimes been not ignored, but not always appreciated in the way that they should be. Hopefully that's changing. And so when I come on, I'd like to, make sure that we continue to make a work environment that is good for these workers.
All right, thank you. Joanne, what do you think about that retention, especially with drivers with very short tenures with the district?
That's a great question. And I think RTD has been trying to solve that for a long time. And, I have to concur with much of what Lynn said. She didn't take a lot of my answer. I just concur. I would like to see our operators paid even more. The easing of mandates, I know, was a huge help. Working a split shift was really hard on operators. It also creates an unsafe driving environment, which means it's unsafe for our riders as well. Anything that we can do to improve the quality of life and jobs, which includes the dignity of retirement. I'd like to see both of those pension plans be shored up a little better, and focusing on safety is really critical. But really, that comes just from all of these things are going to come from listening to workers, and that means listening to our organized workforce, our organized labor. And when they tell us they need something, we have to take it very seriously and see how we can address those needs.
Certainly, Michael.
I concur with what has been said. I think the contracting is something that we can look at, but I also believe the holistic approach to compensation, time, work-life balance is important. I'm particularly keen on a positive work environment and listening to employees. I work for Starbucks, and we have to do that all the time, or we lose people hand over fist if we're not careful. And so really listening and then acting after we've listened in the best interest of the employees and the members of the union, probably going to be the thing that changes it. And that's a cultural change that we need to make.
Understood. Next question for everyone. RTD has one of the largest operating regions in the country, serving 2,342 square miles, covering all or part of 8 counties and over 3 million people in very diverse areas of the Denver metro region, from suburbs to dense downtowns. How will you work to serve your region and identify those district-wide priorities? Do you foresee any trade-offs in these conversations? If so, what are they? So in short, how do you serve your region and the entire district? What compromises would you possibly have to make? Michael?
I'm blessed to be not monolingual, and I am grateful to always listen to anything anybody has to say to advise. But it's a listening game. You have to listen and ask questions to the right groups of people. Puedo hacerlo en español. I'm learning sign language right now, ASL. I speak several other languages, Portuguese, French, Italian. So let's go out and find it, have a conversation over coffee, give me some ideas so I can take it to the board and talk to them. But on the larger board, the idea is that we work as a region. We advocate for our district, but we work as a region. And I'm sure there's going to be crossover in places where we butt heads, but we need to have those conversations and figure out what the right thing is to do. I represent Northwest Denver. I won't be disagreeable to anybody from Boulder or Commerce City, right? All the trains start here and they end somewhere else. All the bus routes are at our hub in Union Station. Let's figure out how to make that work for everybody.
All right, Joanne?
Thank you. So in answer to your question, I think RTD needs to move away from the hub and spoke model and really focus on filling in the grid. There are very few places on the RTD map that really exist in a vacuum. But for unique situations, like I mentioned Montbello earlier, that's where I think RTD can take a unique approach. So I'm really excited, for example, that the city and county of Denver has partnered with local nonprofits to do a micro transit pilot, and those are that would be one way that directors can support the needs of other directors' districts, while also continuing to serve the agency as a whole. You mentioned RTD covers over 2,300 square miles. I would also like to see local governments help fill in that grid, literally, but also financially as well. And I think that RTD would benefit in increasing those partnerships with local governments and allowing them, again, in coordination with RTD, to supply some of that workforce and that financial backing that it desperately needs.
Thank you. And Ian, you live in a suburb. I live in the same suburb of Arvada. Radically different issues than might be found in the density of downtown Denver or out through Commerce City and Montbello to DIA. How do you serve your district and serve the entire district? And what compromises may have to be made to accomplish what you need to accomplish?
Well, I really like what Michael and Joanne just said. One thing that I think is interesting for me is I grew up in Arvada and I have lived all over the metro area, but for a long time I lived in Southwest Denver. And are you all still there?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. You froze up for a second. So I've lived in a variety of areas, and so I think that I bring a unique perspective, really to dovetail off of what Michael said. Coming in and listening and trying to hear about the concerns, one of people in Arvada, but then also in Denver, and I'm totally with Joanne. Like I think it's the hub and spoke worked for a long time. And I think that it's important as we're moving forward to think about this from a much more holistic standpoint and fill in the grid, but also work in tandem with our cities, you know, specifically Denver. It's so big and it covers so much ground, but making sure that we are connecting that to all the various suburbs, and Arvada being next to it. I think there's a lot of opportunity to connect it to Boulder better, to connect it up to Broomfield, Denver, et cetera.
Thank you. Lynn, it's a big district and you want to serve your district. How do you serve both masters?
You know, it's a great question, and it's not as hard as you think. You know, I think that when you get on the board, I believe everybody on this board is committed to the good of the district as a whole, and I think that's how we vote, and I think that's how we interact. I think that Mike Guzman said it nicely. You advocate for your district, you work as a region, and because there are people who come to us, and you know, I work closely with the county and the cities and others, and I think many people do that, so that as district representatives, we can bring those specific issues. But I think that that we're all working towards the good of the region as a whole. I like what you're saying about moving from the hub and spoke model. You know, I think RTD with the new system optimization plan, I think we're doing a good job of providing service in the central area and to our essential workers and low-income populations that stayed with us through the pandemic. And I hope that we can focus on building out the regional backbone and partner. That's going to have to be the future, as Ian said, the microtransit and others have said, working with our local governments and the state. Thanks.
Harvest, we have had a tremendous amount of collaboration and agreement in these answers. How do you feel about this issue of your district versus the district at large?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, I think my district should come first no matter what. I think my district, I serve the people in District K who deserve the best. And that's my job as their director to give them the best. Now, I know I have to work with others. That's where the compromise come in. You're gonna need 7 individuals to vote with you. And I understand being a state employee and being a union employee, and I watch our union president, how he goes about doing things, how he addressed things about sending surveys to us, asking us what do we need or how do we look at things, and the communication. The communication for District K is the most important, and everybody, no matter what color you are, what race you are, whatever, everybody should be treated as one. Now, you go outside, you don't have to work with the other districts to understand how can you make that happen? How can you help them? Because you want their help to work with you, to see where you come. Everybody is not going to be lined in the same way, and you're not going to get everything you want sitting on that dais.
Very well. Thank you, everyone, for those answers. This August, RTD provided free transit for a month. In your mind, how should RTD evaluate the success of that program? Mike?
Well, I loved it. I used it all month. My friends that came in from out of town and cousins from El Paso jumped on the train and I met them downtown. I think that there's statistics that are available. In fact, they should have been in the last month's report to the board. If I remember correctly, we can use those and we can see what that did with ridership. How do we make it sustainable? How do we make it happen every year? I don't know. That's a great question. Something that the board should look at and tackle, but also I think it's great when we can use those public services for free. And so if there's a benefit to it and getting cars off the road, getting people using mass transit, getting people excited about different forms of RTD, let's go for it. I'm all in.
All right, Joanne, how do you measure the success of a month of free service to RTD? What is your metric?
That's a great question. So we saw that ridership did improve, but we still haven't hit pre-COVID numbers. I think there are a lot of variables we don't know yet. So my response would be to take a look at the data. I believe there'll be more data presented to the board in the coming weeks. And I think we should do it again. I think we should not only reduce our rates, as I mentioned earlier, but simplify routes and really go to riders and say, you know, what do we need to do to get you on these trains and on these buses more? But I think this was a great pilot. It was it's a small snapshot, and we need to keep going down that road. We already know our rates are too high. And I think also Lynn and everyone else has mentioned, you know, we do have this opportunity to change our fee structure. And I think that's really the next step.
Thank you. Ian?
I just really like what my future coworkers have to say. But I think there's a lot to be said for simplifying the fee structure. I know before I started riding it daily and I had an eco pass, I remember sometimes looking at there going, wait, am I doing the right thing? And feeling like, wow, I feel stupid right now. And I don't like that. And I don't think other people, especially people that are coming to our community, like feeling dumb. So anything we can do to simplify that, I think and obviously I recognize the issues here, but we need to have more frequent, more reliable service in more places throughout the city. And again, I understand the constraints, but I think that once we have increased those services, then we'll see ridership follow. But again, totally get that that's a chicken and egg thing here. But I do think simplified, more frequent, better services will also increase ridership. But I love that it was free for the month, and I'm not sure free fares the way to go, but I do love that when you simplify it, there you go. A lot more people come.
All right, Lynn, in month, everybody rode for free, ridership went up. Is it a win? And if so, how?
Oh, it's a win. I think there's several metrics. The first one is people loved it. Everybody I talked to knew about it. People were using it. Ridership went up from July to August, 22%. Some of that, probably 6 to 7% would have happened ordinarily, school coming back, but it was a significant number, and it started to help bring ridership back. It was a statement that RTD shares the region's focus on the environment and the climate. The idea was to try to make a difference in ground level ozone. In terms of the metrics, did it make a difference in ground level ozone? I don't know yet. We may be working on some of that. And what was the other metric I was thinking of that? Will ridership stay up in September? We'll have those numbers soon. I think those are interesting, but it's a lot to ask for 1 month to make a huge difference. I think I'm excited. I was excited to be part of the process of getting to 1 month over 2 years. We'll be doing it again in August. And we'll be doing it again next week because the board decided to have zero fares for election day. We had one last Friday that was early vote day, but on Tuesday, if you haven't gotten your ballot in, catch the bus if you need it. Thanks.
Good. And Harvest, we've had a lot of folks here express very positive thoughts about free fares ridership in August of this year. In your mind, how do you measure the success of that program?
How do I measure?
If it even is a success. I mean, I don't want to have an assumptive question.
As far as metrics is, I would have to go back 3 months to see how many people rode the buses. So you have to do the numbers to see how many people rode the buses for that 1 month that was free. And then you can balance it out to see, but it was free. So anything free and people saving money in this economy is a plus, no matter how you look at it. But you have to look at it as, are the individuals riding the bus normally don't ride the bus, who rode the bus? Are they going to ride it again to pay? So how are you going to lure them in? If safety is better for those individuals to ride the bus, is the disability a factor for the individuals riding the bus. So it's so many metrics to look at those individuals riding the bus. It's more than, I would have, as a number person, I would have to look at the numbers to see if it was positive. And then you see the next month, how many people rode the bus or did it decline? Then you're gonna have to check to see, oh, what's going on? And then mostly, the bus drivers know more than anybody. If we talk to the bus drivers and get their feeling of how things is ran, how the schedules has been, just like you say, you live in Nevada, how many metro districts has popped up? How many buildings has popped up? So it's a lot of metrics to go into just saying a month is free.
Understood. Thank you, everyone, for those responses. Next question. Assuming everyone has had a chance to review the system optimization plan, that assumption goes into this question. As part of the Reimagine RTD process, what is the most important feature of that plan in your mind? Part one of the question. Part two of the question is, what will be the impact of that plan in the next 3 to 4 years? So again, what is the most important feature of the Reimagine RTD plan? What will it be doing for the system in 3 to 4 years? Michael.
It's a big question. It's a big plan. In my mind, I think the one thing that stood out to me from the entire plan that I was really excited by was getting the electric vehicles, excuse me. We have to move away from fossil fuels to protect the environment. And there's a whole bunch of other issues that come with that. I know, maybe unpopular, but for me, that was important. That's training, that's job creation, having a transition period where we're teaching people new things and learning new things. How do we redo routes so that we can have buses that run? The impact in 3 to 4 years on that. We want an environment to live in Colorado or not. People come here for a beautiful state and it's gorgeous. We have to take care of it. We're the stewards. Doesn't matter whether you're driving your car, you're driving a bus, or you're riding a bus, or you're riding a bike. We are responsible for our state. And we can, as a regional district, make a huge impact on that. For every bus, it's what, 60 cars off of the highway system? If we're doing that with electric vehicles, that's even better. Is that going to happen in 3 to 4 years? Probably not. The logistics aren't there to support that idea, but we can make transitions and we can start turning towards that. So for me, that's the one that stood out. And I can see a definite shift in how we take care of our environment and stewardship in 3 to 4 years if we start working on that plan.
Thank you. Joanne?
Now you saved the big one for the end. Okay, towards the end. And that is a big question. One of the key themes that came out of the system optimization plan was filling in the grid. And so I think that the focus on increasing service hours and increasing access to bus stops, like meaning reducing the gap in like the last mile, so more people have access to that bus stop, will be critical, in addition to maintaining and increasing partnerships with local governments and local regional councils like DRCOG. As to the second part of your question is, where does that land us in 3 to 4 years? It's hard to say. Transit planning is something that you have to do in advance, but you also have to be flexible and nimble, like we learned with COVID. But I do think that this reimagined process has gotten us off to the right start, and I'm very excited about it, and I have a lot of faith in RTD as an agency and as a regional partner moving forward.
Thank you. Ian?
For me, it's as much as it's frustrating for people that I know that live in Arvada, because we did lose some service further north. I think the filling in the grid and having more access to density in the whole scope of things is good, because hopefully it will increase ridership. But that remains to be seen. But I think what it really shows to me is that RTD understands that there are issues and they're willing to take a look at how do we improve things. And I'm hoping that really just opens the door for these future collaborations that we've all spoken about. And hopefully the service that's lost for North Arvada, we can figure out a way to bring back either, future service, or we can be looking at service in new ways to make sure that constituents there, when they want service, we'll find a way to bring it to them. And I don't know what that looks like, but I think we need to be creative and again, look at partnerships and how we can, open that up to all the needs of the different riders.
Thank you, Lynn. The Reimagine plan is out there. What does that do in the next 3 to 4 years?
I guess the most important feature, you asked me about at least the earliest, is that we were able to increase frequency in some of the areas I was talking about, the core areas. What it'll do in the next 3 or 4 years really depends a lot on workforce. We have a lot of service that we need to bring back in my area and in the whole district that riders are looking for. And a lot of that is included in the SOP. And so my hope is we can get the workforce built up to start bringing that service back. I'll just add that we passed the second half of Reimagine, the mobility plan for the future, out of committee earlier this week. It'll be going to the board on November 15th. And that has some exciting pieces in it, a partnership program that's designed to really invite partnerships. I think it still has some work to be done, but I think it's a very good start. They'll be taking it to the regional service councils in the near future. I think the regional service councils, which came out of the accountability committee and is and out of Reimagine, is a good step forward in terms of getting local voices into the planning process. And so I guess those are my thoughts. I think it's encouraging TOD development, equitable TOD development, and I'm hoping we can bring service back to those areas. Thanks.
Harvest, in 3 to 4 years, how does the Reimagine plan help?
I think it helps a lot, but in 3 or 4 years, things change. Could bring a new director in and they change different things. So I strongly feel safety should be the top priority. And I feel that fast track, I would go to the county commissioners of Boulder and ask them to do a bond for fast track. I would go to all of El Paso County, going to Colorado Springs, go to the commissioners and ask for bonds for fast track.
And so what you're talking about is a commuter rail.
That is correct. I think the commuter rail should be number one, because if we promise these cities and these communities that the trains is gonna come that way, we should hold our word and not say 45 to 50 years. That's wrong. I honestly feel that because workers is retiring, I strongly feel that they can go to the career and technical and ask, and honestly, those employees that's union can teach those classes. They could bring those students to their buildings and teach them mechanics, welding, pipe fitter, bus driving. So the plan is good, but the plan is for 3 or 4 years, things change. And I'm thinking, you get a new board on there, they might want to change the reimagination plan to what they feel. So I strongly feel that the safety, the fast track, and the employee helping the employees bring younger students in the system will help.
Thank you. We're going to go in reverse order here. Harvest, I'm going to start with you. Very quick answer, if you could.
Yes.
What's missing in the Reimagine RTD plan that you want to see?
I feel what's missing is the money, the dollar cents. Everything is about what we can do, what you think they can do. But if you don't know where the dollars is and how the money is going to be spent and how the money is going to get you there, everything is on paper.
Thank you. Lynn, I'm asking, what's the Achilles heel in your view of the Reimagine RTD plan?
Sorry. I don't know if I'd call it the Achilles heel, but the next step, I think the board, I think really needs to take on the funding issue and look to the future. We're in pretty good shape right now, but as we move forward, it's going to become a bigger issue again. So I think it's time for the board to put our heads together and really look to the future.
Thank you. Ian, we have two folks who are worried about the funding in the Reimagine plan. What's the one thing, if you could pick one thing that is not in the plan that you would like to see addressed?
Well, I'm gonna just go right off of what Lynn just said. And I think we need to be thinking about the future. And to me, that's looking at bus rapid transit on a variety of our lines, talking about Front Range Rail and potentially having that conversation. Harvest just said, talking about Colorado Springs, talking about Fort Collins. Like, and I get that that's not part of our district, but how do we be thinking about if that comes through, how do we work that into our future? And I think we need to be pushing that dialogue because that's a game changer for the Front Range. And if we bring that in and then we enhance our service, where we could really be looking at a really pretty amazing system in the not too distant future.
Good. Joyanne, the plan is out there. What else does it need?
Great question. And I am actually going to agree on the money aspect. I think it would have been inappropriate for the service optimization plan and Reimagine RTD to get too far ahead of ourselves on funding. But we do know that funding is an issue. So I see that more as a next step as opposed to something that is missing. And I also just I do actually want to acknowledge, we haven't talked about this very much, but there are some areas in the plan, I think, that didn't get as much attention. And I have a lot of empathy for Director Greisinger's district and her constituents. I think RTD could do better. Ian also mentioned BRT. Fast Tracks had 18 miles of BRT planned, and we haven't built a single mile of BRT yet. Even Flatiron Flyer, isn't true BRT. So I'd like us to address those issues. But overall, I do think that the Reimagine process was a really good start.
Very good. And Michael, what is not there that you would like to see?
Funding, money, we got to figure that out. And it's going to be a tough conversation and we're going to have to put our heads together and figure it out. But we can also go to our legislators, go to our constituents. We can talk to people and have that difficult conversation once we know what we're talking about as a board and what we're willing to go advocate for and take action on. We can go move. So hoping that.
Thank you for those answers, and it dovetails into this next question. RTD has been working hard with unions to shore up the operator shortages since even before the pandemic. How should the district be thinking about this challenge going forward? Mike?
The economy the way it is now, pay is a big deal. We need to have good incentives to keep people, not lose them, attract them, get good talent. Maybe there's a way that we can be creative about how we do that attraction. And some of that is marketing and some of that is work culture and how we're operating. So I need more information when I have the opportunity to talk to directors and to talk to the operating side to find out what's working and what's not. But Harvest mentioned it earlier, the best people to go to right now are going to be the drivers and the operators and get feedback from them. How do we improve the system?
Understood. Joyanne, obviously building the workforce back up to full employment, so to speak, has been a big challenge even prior to COVID. How do you do it?
Continue to work with the operators, our mechanics, our janitorial staff, ask workers what they need. And then, we work to address that. funding has been talked about a lot in filling in that grid. I do believe that in order for us to like continue to build this world-class transit system, a system I think is quite possible, we're going to need a lot of money. And a lot of that money is we're going to have to increase pay considerably, as well as ensure that all of our operators, mechanics, and unionized staff have that right to the dignity of retirement and that security. I really think that is the only way we're going to be able to implement any of these plans.
Right, Ian, how do you build the workforce back up?
Again, I like what's been said a lot. I think making sure that the workers feel appreciated, and then this is beyond everything that's just said about pay and making sure we're taking care of them in terms of their pension, but also like making sure they feel appreciated, make sure we're making a workforce that is embracing of them, that's safe for them, that where they feel like when there's an issue, we're taking care of it. And I think those things, kind of get us there in the short term. But in the long term, I think we also need to be looking at future technologies and acknowledge that there are things coming down the pike that we should be aware of. And I'll probably get yelled at by a bunch of people, but I think like autonomous vehicles at some point have to be acknowledged that they're a possibility. I think, smaller vehicles also that don't require CDL license. I think there are just some other options that are coming and should be, acknowledged, and we should be looking at them. And just, right now we do buses and we do trains, and what are the other, what else can we be looking at to diversify our workforce?
All right, Lynn, you have certainly dealt with this issue and have considerable experience with it. What's a path forward? What's a good path forward?
Well, again, I'm happy to hear so many good ideas from future board members. I think people have been doing their homework. There's a lot of good thoughts. I think with our new CBA, these jobs pay well. Maybe I'll use this as a little bit of an advertisement. They start at 24 an hour. Within 2 years, you're at 26. You start with a $4,000 signing bonus that's paid out somewhat over time, double time for overtime, a 401k type of contribution plan where RTD pays the first 9% and then we'll match the next 5%. So it's, I think we have a good plan. I think we just finished a job fair that seemed to go well. I'd like to see us use more part-time and retiree employees. I think we've been focusing, our new CEO has focused a lot on some of the changes, as I mentioned, with mandating and other things to create a better quality of life. It's just tough. It's, you're competing against FedEx and Amazon, and if people want to drive, there are a lot of jobs out there, but I think it's a good job. And I hope, as I said, that we'll continue to move forward and get some good results.
Thank you. Harvest, we know that it's a hard job. Driving people is a hard job, whether it be in a bus or on a train. What is a good path forward to try to build the workforce back up, which is ultimately going to improve service?
Well, we have to be honest with ourselves that this is a new generation. This ain't 30 years ago where you work with your dad and you follow your dad and you follow that. That's out. What attracts the new generation? What is the marketing that attracts it? You can put all the dollar signs in front of them, but that don't mean too much to them. You have to find something that hit their heart to understand what the future might bring for them if you work for the RTD. What is a union? Do these new generation know what a union is? What is the aspect for me to work in? What am I going to achieve if I work for RTD? What can RTD give me for the future, for my family? You said $25, somebody can come back and say 28. Somebody can do this, this, and this. What is RTD can offer someone to make them want to work here? What is that silver lining?
And that's my question. What is that silver lining?
You have to start, I always said since I've been sitting here at this table is, our students is young, and if you pay them minimum wage to have RTD union employees train them how to be a pipe fitter, how to be a mechanic, how to drive buses. You have those students 2, 3, 4 years. Those students are already in line to understand this is what I want to do. This is where I'm gonna be. This RTD then invested in me as a kid, as a career. But if you don't want, if you're looking for adults looking for different things now.
And so what you're proposing is something akin to an RTD institute?
RTD can go into the schools. Our school districts have career technology in their buildings. All they have to do is take these union workers they will get the union workers that in these specific fields can get certificates from the Colorado Department of Education to teach those classes. So you have union workers teaching the students how to be a pipe fitter, how to be a mechanic, how to drive buses. So you're keeping it in-house. You're not outsourcing. You're not outsourcing to Pickens to do this. You're not outsourcing to Emily Griffin to do this. You keeping it in-house because you having your own employees to apply for this certificate from the Colorado Department of Education. And if individuals understand, Governor Polis sat on the board of Department of Education. You don't think Governor Polis wants the RTDs to succeed? Of course he does. He can make waivers to get this done. So it's more than just saying $30 for this and this and this. Let's keep it real and make it accessible for families and students that need this.
All right, thank you so much for that. We're gonna go with some quicker questions here. So if you can, I understand that these can be complicated issues. I'd like to think in terms of a 15 to 30-second answer. So start thinking about it the first time you hear the question, and unfortunately, Harvest, you're gonna be first up on this, so you're gonna have to think on your feet.
All right.
Here we go. Fast tracks. Keep working to execute the plan or negotiate amendments and downsize.
No, keep working to negotiate the plan.
Cool. Michael.
Keep working to negotiate that plan.
All right, Lynn.
Keep working to negotiate the plan. We have
Sure.
an $8 million study going on Northwest Rail right now. And Front Range Passenger Rail is moving forward. We have a window there.
Good. Joanne.
What my colleague said.
Good. Well, if you guys are on board together, it's gonna be like, it's just like unicorns and rainbows. Ian.
Negotiate and expand.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good. I didn't miss anyone there, did I? All right, here's another quick one. Ian, I'm going to start with you. Trying to get at the frequency versus route density philosophy. So do we want a bus stop within a quarter mile of every home or 5-minute frequencies within a mile of every home? So are we looking for timing frequency or locational density? What's a priority, Ian?
Well, no matter what I say here, people that I know are going to hate me.
But that's kind of a hazard of the job, is it not?
Truth. Yeah, I hate upsetting the disability community, and I know that they'll be the ones that'll be upset with me when I say I think that we should do route frequency versus route density.
Route frequency versus density. Lynn, frequency versus density.
I think it depends on the area. We've got some very different areas and they have different needs.
Very good. Harvest, frequency versus density.
I'm gonna say both. I think you got rural areas that's housed out of some part. Then you got these communities that's built right up under each other. So I think you can do both.
Are you, would you say, when you're talking about a rural area, are you talking about having high density in there, or would it be more of a frequency model?
Frequency for the rural areas that population, I'll base it on the numbers of the population of where it's at.
All right, Michael.
It's a both and issue depending on where you're at. I'm in Denver, Northwest Denver, so for me, we have the density, we gotta move people, but the frequency is important too. So I've got people leaving out of here to get to DIA and they need that train running on time, every time.
Right.
So it depends on what we're talking about, what service we're talking about, where we're talking about it.
Very good. Joanne, what's your opinion?
I think it's a little from column A and a little from column B. We should be running buses and trains where they're needed. So from an equity perspective, and this isn't like a perfect formula, we could say, 90% of our planning is on density and high ridership. And then we have a section of our budget and our planning, that focuses on making sure that we're serving underserved areas as well, because they also need transit. I would also, and I appreciate Ian's honesty, and sometimes we do have this conflict. But I will be, and I have been a strong advocate for when we do reduce routes or change routes, that anybody who's a current paratransit rider gets to keep their status as a paratransit rider, and they don't lose access to transit. These are often individuals who don't have another option, like buying a car or riding in an Uber, as we know they're not wheelchair accessible. So that would be, I think, one way we can address some of those issues and those conflicts.
I appreciate that answer because it leads right into my next question. Ian, this comes to you first. How would you plan to improve Access-a-Ride?
Well, I mean, I think we're dealing with a major issue there, and that's staff shortages. So again, I'm gonna circle back to what I have in my day job, and the Montebello call and ride shuttle. I mean, clearly a new, it's pretty new, but we're having really high ridership rates. And I think that, models like that, and we can find partnerships to help, flesh out and grow Access-a-Ride. But I do think we're going to run into just a staffing issue. And again, it's not tomorrow, but I think, in 10 or 15 years, and that's way down the line, but autonomous vehicles are a way that we could potentially be meeting that need in a way. Shared accessible shuttles could be game changing for people with disabilities. And so I know that sounds pretty far afield, but I do think that we need to be looking at that and be thinking about that as we move forward.
All right, Lynn, what could be done to improve Access-a-Ride?
There's a new software in the works for Access-a-Ride that's coming on board that I think will help people make their appointments and help the provision of service along the way. We're in progress on an Uber pilot where RTD pays the first two. No, the rider pays the first $2, then RTD pays the next $20, and if there's any left, the rider pays above that. Access-a-Ride rides cost us something like $55 each. So those kinds of changes to bring that subsidy down, I think, are important, and not just bring the subsidy down, but really improve our service so people are able to know when their ride is coming and count on it being there.
Yes, Harvest, how can Access-a-Ride be improved?
I'm not for outsourcing jobs. I'm a straight union person. To me, that's taken away from unions and cutting jobs and whatnot. My personal opinion would be how to get more riders, get more people to drive these. Mostly Access-a-Ride is probably in our lower income individuals. And I think giving whatever it costs for them to ride, if it's $55, that's $55. You giving somebody $20 just to ride an Uber or another vehicle, that's disrespectful to the RTD employees. That's how I feel.
All right, Joanne, what improvements can be made for accessible ride?
I'm so excited you asked this question. So first, I think that RTD should include low-income accessoride riders in our low-income fares program. They're currently excluded, which I personally think is an ADA violation, and excluding riders on the basis of disability is discriminatory, and that's something that we can fix in our next fares review. I mentioned legacy status to paratransit riders. So I will continue to advocate for that. And one issue, in addition to making sure we have enough drivers that would really benefit all of our riders with disabilities, would be RTD really taking steps and making improvements and engaging in new partnerships to ensure that all of our stops are ADA accessible. So we do have some individuals who have to use Access-a-Ride because because of inaccessibility of sidewalks or certain places that RTD partners with or manages. And I think that would be an overall benefit to all riders, but it would reduce some of the strain on the system and just improve the quality of service overall. Great question.
Thank you. And Michael, accessible ride.
Joanne, I'm really excited to work with you. I will be honest, I am a fully capable person. I don't face some of the issues that the writers face. My first question is, what do you need and how do we help you improve that service? That's where I would start with my community members and figure out what we can do to improve it. We can call them, we can ask it. In theory, I understand how Access-a-Ride works, but I've never had to use it myself, so I don't know the finer parts of it. And maybe that's just a call I need to make one day and try and figure out how that operates. But taking that service away from somebody who might really need it to just figure it out is not a great idea in my mind. So I don't know. I don't know what the right thing is. I will say I agree with Harvest. If we're going to spend the money on having Access-a-Ride, excuse me, then we need to figure out a way to make that sustainable and more user-friendly. We can do that.
Very well, thank you. We have roughly 2 more minutes to go in our forum here today. And I want to finish with this question. It's a rather complicated question. So again, as concise as it can be, everybody will be appreciative of that. Also acknowledging this is a rather complicated question. Here we go. And this is going to go to Joanne first. Do you think that the public's perception of safety while riding RTD buses and light rail is hurting the ridership numbers and or recruitment and retention of frontline personnel?
That sounds like a yes or no question. And my answer to that is yes.
All right, it is a yes or no question. Lynn, yes or no? Is it hurting ridership and retention?
Yep. And it's a problem of the city, the region, and cities around the country that public transit, takes a piece of. But yeah, the answer is yes.
Harvest?
Yes, but when you have less than 21 police officers for the whole state of Colorado RTD, you cannot, safety is, you can't take care of those folks.
Michael?
Yes, it is.
Ian?
Yeah, it's an issue.
All right, follow-up question then. Ian, we'll start with you. What is a step or steps that can be taken to address that?
I know we're keeping it short. The city of Denver has they have their STAR program. They're meeting the people with disability, or not with disabilities, meeting people with mental health issues. And that's when I ride the bus, a lot of the experience I've had is people are having some type of a mental health episode potentially. That's some of the things I've experienced. And so I like the STAR program and meeting those people where they're at and helping to provide them with the services they need in a non-law enforcement standpoint. So I'm going to go with an expansion of the STAR program on RTD at RTD facilities.
All right, Joanne, we have all acknowledged here that perception of security is a problem. What step or steps can be taken to address that?
Oh, thank you for asking this question. So I would support a pilot that provides alternatives to armed security. I don't think we need people with guns checking tickets. Caring for Denver would be an option if RTD wanted to go that route and apply for that funding. I also support, and I'm really open about this, the creation of supervised safe consumption sites. There's been a lot of talk about people who use drugs on RTD vehicles and in our stations. But if RTD were to support a pilot, just politically support a pilot, I think that the legislature would pass one. That would improve the health outcomes of people who use drugs while also improving safety on RTD property generally. And then finally, I support changing protocol so that our operators can get prompt help when needed. Right now, they rely heavily on dispatch, and I think that creates a safety issue for our drivers and for our riders.
Harvest, safety is an issue. What's to be done?
What I would do is I would, just like you go on Lowe's and Home Depot and you see those cameras say you are being recorded, you can put those on the steps monitoring people coming up on the screens. You can put those in the trains and say, oh, you're being recorded. Just like when you pass E470 and the toll and the camera hit, you can put those outside. So when cars come through, they can hit your plates. Also, too, again, I don't know the RTD's budget as far as security, but you can go to local districts, and just like school districts has CR, the officers that goes to the schools.
Right.
You can pay.
A community resource officer.
That is correct, and you can just like these police officers, and have them just drive around to monitor. You ain't asking them to check, or you just asking them their ability to be there and people to see a police officer riding in the parking lot, walking up the ramp, come down. That's comfort to them and safety to them. That's how I feel.
All right, Michael, what do you think?
Excited to meet the new chief of police and get his suggestions on this. And then as a board, consume it and try and figure out what we can do. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's difficult. Lynn, you are going to get the last word, not only on this question, but in the forum today. I'll repeat it. It is safety and security. I think you have all agreed that that is an issue for riders and operators. What is something that can be done?
Yeah, absolutely. People need to feel safe and secure on the bus. So I'm hearing a lot of good ideas in increasing the security presence. Our new chief is increasing our transit police, using fewer, the goal is to use fewer contract and more of our own employees. We were, I believe, the first agency in the country to hire social workers. We have 4 social workers that are working, like as Ian said, with the STAR program and a lot in Union Station to help people who are in need of help and to help them find places to be, in shelters and things like that. Working on environmental design solutions in Union Station, those are underway, working closely with the city of Denver on those. I'll mention one that's an issue up in my district that we're working on together with the police, which is catalytic converter thefts. And it's a huge issue around the district. It just happens to be one that I've been working on as well, because if people don't believe they can leave their cars safely, they're not wanting to ride the bus as well. So I think working on all the pieces and staff and the board are doing that. Thanks.
Thank you. We're going to finish with one logistical piece, and this is, of course, write-in candidates don't appear on the ballot. So it's important that people know how to spell your name and in what district you are running. So just based on my screen view here, I'm going to start with Ian first. And I would like you to very slowly spell your name and then state what district you're running in. Go ahead.
Okay, Ian, which is IAN. My last name is Harwick, which is HARWICK, and I'm running in District L, which is for the most part Arvada.
Thank you. Joyanne, would you go next, please?
I believe mine has the most letters. It doesn't even fit all on the line. But it's Joyann, Joyann, and I have a hyphenated last name, Keener-Ruscha, KEENER -RUSCHA. And I am running for District B. And I also want to remind folks that in addition to writing in someone's name, you also have to fill in the bubble. And a lot of people didn't realize that, and it's not so obvious. So if you are going to participate and write in someone's name, they have to already be certified by the Secretary of State. You can't write in Mickey Mouse, but don't forget to fill in the bubble next to their name.
Thank you very much. That is another important process. Lynn, would you please provide us with your spelling and district, please?
District O, I'm on the ballot. People will see it. Lynn Geisinger.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Super. Harvest,
Harvest Thomas III is on the ballot.
it's on the ballot. Michael?
I'm a write-in candidate for District C, which is mostly Northwest Denver. It includes Edgewater and a small few blocks of Jefferson County. My name is spelled M-I-C-H-A-E-L, Michael. Last name is Guzman, G-U-Z-M-A-N. And don't forget to fill in the bubble.
Fill in the bubble, folks. And for everyone here at RTD, for all of the candidates, thank you so very much for participating this afternoon, and for everyone watching live, or if you're going to pick it up later with the recording, I want to thank you. My name is Marty Caniglio. It has been a pleasure to once again host the RTD Board Candidates Forum, this one for 2022.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marty. You were wonderful.
Yeah, appreciate it.